Hello, Internet. How are we this lovely Friday evening? You made it. You made it all the way to Friday. I'm so proud of you guys. It doesn't matter to me anymore. I don't know what day it is when I wake up in the morning now. My life is weird. All right, Scarlett's eagerly awaiting to say hi. You want to say hi to everybody? Okay, come on. Hi. How is everybody doing this evening? It's so nice to see you, Wally World. Nice to see you. We got kind of a spicy one tonight, folks. Oh, I know. It's going to be a spicy one. Okay. Why don't you lay down? Good girl. Oh, she actually listened tonight. That was nice. Well, yeah, we're going to talk about some stuff that we're not supposed to. This whole TikTok thing sent me down a rabbit hole. And yeah, the TikTok bill, the whole trying to force them to sell it thing. Yeah, this definitely sent me down a rabbit hole, and we have a ton to cover tonight. So this might be my longest episode I've ever done. I think 2.5 hours is my record. It might go longer than that. I don't know. It might be shorter. I'm not sure. I really don't know. It's just I got all this stuff pulled up, and I have to get through all of it in order to sort of paint a picture of some shenanigans and everything that I think is going on. Well, yeah, we'll see if we can wait for a few people to get in here. Make sure I'm streaming on all the platforms here. Make sure I'm streaming over on Twitter. Here, let me adjust my mic really quick. It'd be funny if it just fell down. All right. Looks like I am live over on Rumble, YouTube, and on X. All right, we look good. All right. If you guys are watching over on Rumble, let me know because the chat's been seeming weird over there lately. Well, yeah, I guess without further, go ahead and hit that like button. That'd be very helpful. I always forget to say that in the beginning of the show, but I have way too much to get through tonight, so I just want to get right into it. We're going to talk, obviously, about the TikTok bill and how important the control of information is. The control of what we can say, what we can listen to, what we can talk about, all of that. And this goes back a very long time. Hallucinate, nice to see you. Hello. I think the most important thing to the cathedral, the establishment, the intelligence agencies is the dissemination of information. And that's why they've gone after Elon so hard. That's why people got suspended for saying the most benign things in old Twitter. And that's why the intelligence agencies are so intertwined with all of big tech and Silicon Valley. And we're going to get into all of that. And it might take us in a direction that's a little uncomfortable because, yeah, there's some things that we're not supposed to talk about. We all know there's an Italian mafia. We all know about the mob. We all know there's a Russian mafia, Russian mob, the Yakuza, Chinese mobs in Hong Kong. We know this, and we all, there's plenty of us that are anti-government, like myself. I'm anti pretty much all the governments, but there's certain mobs, certain intelligence agencies, and certain governments that you don't really seem to be allowed to criticize. And it's very strange and how inorganic the attacks happen whenever you criticize these intelligence agencies, governments, or mobs. If we talk about a certain mob that exists, you're called certain things. So we'll get right into the control of information and how important it is to the intelligence agencies and how involved they've been with media and how it's pivoted to, we get all our information online now and the corporate press just isn't as relevant anymore. But that used to be the only way. That used to be the only way that people would get their information. So let's get right into it. And I'm just going to start off with a little recap of, the good old Operation Mockingbird. So if you guys, most of you guys have heard of Operation Mockingbird. If you haven't, well, we're going to talk about it. So let's actually, let me jump over here really quick. Let's get right into it though. All right. This is a quick recap of what Operation Mockingbird was. And yeah, let's talk about it.
Over 3,000 CIA contracted and trained operatives were placed in key positions within top media outlets. Posing as editors and journalists, these well-paid actors never dared to question the effect of their lies on the world beyond their cozy studio.
How often does the CIA manipulate the media in this way?
It goes beyond your wildest imagination. Setting up student organizations so they could draw radical students in. 5,000 university professors co-opted to help the CIA manipulate people's minds. Journalists in the U.S., including big-name journalists, co-opted to function routinely to help the CIA put out stories and biases to the world.
As this 1952 CIA memo says, the aim is controlling an individual to the point where he will do our bidding against his will.
It's a great brainwashing process to change the perception of reality of every American to such an extent.
That's Gary Besmanoff here talking there.
That no one is able to come to sensible conclusions in the interest of defending themselves, their families, their community, and their country.
It was the Telecommunications Act of 1996 that opened the door for predatory corporations to monopolize the industries of print and broadcast.
This bill protects consumers against monopolies. It guarantees the diversity of voices.
Today, a handful of corporate empires own and control the vast majority of everything you read, hear, and watch. From the biggest movie studios, television and radio networks, newspapers and magazines, to the vast universe of internet news and entertainment sites.
Amazon has transformed its operations in response to COVID-19 to protect employees and keep packages flowing.
The company is keeping its employees safe and healthy while still delivering those packages to your doorstep. Keeping its employees safe and healthy. The company is keeping its employees safe. The company is keeping its employees safe. Millions of Americans staying at home are relying on Americans staying at home.
See this? So we saw this during COVID, where you would get the exact same talking points sent out to, these are all local news stations. Why are all these local news stations saying word for word the exact same thing, like they were handed a script from someone? It's a little suspicious, don't you think?
And that is how it works.
So, Operation Mockingbird. That was something the CIA did way back in the day. I'm sure they stopped, right? There's no way they would continue doing stuff like that, right? No, it's gotten much worse, much worse. And it's not just the CIA. It's our other greatest ally intelligence agency that's involved as well. Some would argue that they actually have more influence over our corporate press than the American intelligence agencies do. Let's continue. So let's get over to this TikTok bill. So this, I mean, I've been hearing about the, it's weird how fast this came on the scene, this TikTok bill. And it just all of a sudden seemed like everybody was on the same page with it to get it banned. And then, that sort of got me like, what, why did this come out of nowhere? And now everybody wants to ban TikTok. And I'm just as guilty as anybody else about a year and a half ago when I was, I'm not going to download TikTok. I don't want China having access to my data. And then as time went on, I just thought about it more and more. It's like China already has access to my data. You guys know components in your phone. If you have an iPhone, there's components in your phone that are not made by Apple, and they are made in China. And there's all of your data is, your location. If you use Apple Pay, all of your apps, text messages, everything. And Edward Snowden taught us about the aggregation of data, metadata, and storing it. Well, AI there was so much data that there's no easy way to sift through it all, and you need keywords and things like that. But now with AI coming to the forefront, open AI particularly, it's not so open, all of that coming to the forefront is going to make it much easier, insanely easier to aggregate this data and imagine writing a prompt that you say, hey, I want to make a list of all these people that are extremists or, right-wing extremists or whatever. Even if you wanted to make a group of left-wing Elizabeth Warren supporters. You could do that. Just any list you would want with all the metadata that's stored now, which is just infinitely more every single day. AI is going to be able to just pop stuff right up. And well, back to the TikTok thing. So this sort of started piquing my spidey sense, if you will, when I saw all of the usual horrible people like Nancy Pelosi and Dan Crenshaw, who are supposed to be on the other side of the aisle, agreeing with one another. And then one of the only people in government that I trust, Thomas Massey, talking about how this whole thing's a Trojan horse and pointed out some very specific things. So let's listen to Massey talk for a couple of minutes here.
The gentleman from Kentucky is recognized. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I know the other side is sincere, and we've not questioned that here today, and I won't question their sincerity. In fact, I think they've identified at least 3 problems that we have in America: moral decay of our society, invasion of Americans' privacy, and our competitiveness with China. But in this case, their cure is worse than the diseases. You know, there are ways to get at these root problems. We just haven't taken it upon ourselves to address those root problems with actual legislative solutions that have been put forth here in Congress. For instance, Mr. Warren Davidson's The Fourth Amendment is Not for Sale Act would put a strong stake in the ground to protect Americans' privacy, whether it's from our own government or some foreign governments. That is the kind of thing we need. We need warrants in the FISA program. Our government shouldn't be able to spy on Americans without a warrant, yet they are. Let's bring that to the floor and vote on it. These are the kind of cures we need, not the bill that's offered here today. The bill that's offered here today, even though I know it's offered genuinely, it could also be named the Facebook Protection and Enhancement Act, because it's not the American people who are going to benefit most from this. It will be Facebook. Their stock is going to go up if this bill should pass the Senate. Now, what are some ways that we could improve this bill? Well, it should.
Let me interrupt him a little bit there. Why should the American government be able to force a Chinese company to sell their company? Then that's what they're trying to do with this bill. They're trying to, and China already said it's not for sale. Well, ByteDance, they said it's not for sale. So it's just it's a little suspicious, you know. Why? And they say it's to protect Americans' data. The more you look into this, it's not about that at all.
It at least have a sunset. I mean, that's the only reason we're able to debate whether FISA should have warrants in it, because it sunsets. And what have we observed? FISA's been abused. That's my concern with this TikTok ban. It will be abused. If it's just banning TikTok and ByteDance and copies of that, why does it need to be 13 pages long? And I know they say it doesn't ban it. It forces divestiture of the company. This sounds like when American companies try to do business in third world countries and a dictator says, well, you can do business here. You just got to give me your company. And now you can continue to do business. We wouldn't let another country take over Ford Motor Company for selling Ford cars in their country. Yet that's what we're wanting to do here. And again, you know, this is a cure that is worse than the disease. Who's going to be prosecuted by this bill? Is it ByteDance or TikTok? Will they be taken to court? No. I mean, they're the target of this, but how do you elicit or effect a ban on them? By prosecuting Americans. The only way you can ban TikTok and the other companies from being here is to say what this bill says, which is we will bring civil action. The government will bring a civil action suit against you if you so much as host them here. If you have an app store that allows them to be here, you are an American or an American company, and you will be the target of this bill. Those are the only people who can be pursued under this bill. And I know it's in order to go after TikTok, or so they say. Well, I would just close by saying that, you know, we're sitting here with phones made in China. We're wearing suits made in China. We drove cars here with chips that are made in China. And they're our foreign adversary. And by golly, we're going to do something about it. What are we going to do? You're going to tell Americans they can't put a piece of software on their computer. They can't go to certain websites that the president designates. So I urge my colleagues to oppose this well-intentioned bill because it will have bad consequences, and I yield back the balance of my time.
The gentleman yields back the balance of his time.
Only thing I disagree with Matthew there is it's not well-intentioned. It's not well-intentioned at all. It's super nefarious, and we'll read some of the text of the bill. But him talking about components that are in, your electric car, your iPhone, you just talked about it. There's companies here in the Bay Area that make parts that go in your iPhone that Apple doesn't make. They don't have the infrastructure to make it. These are Chinese-based companies. And, well, we don't seem to care about these companies. There's one very specific company that I've worked at over in Newark that it's a Chinese-owned company, and they make parts for a high-level tech company that makes things that you might have in your pocket, whose name has to do with fruit, if you know what I mean. They don't want people knowing that China makes parts that goes in their phone. They do. They have them. They're in your phone. Let's keep going. Let's look at some of the text of this bill. We'll go over to this is from Viva Fry here. And so the most nefarious thing about this bill, if they force, well, they wouldn't be forcing ByteDance, like Thomas Massey said. The only way they can go after people is if they go after the Apple Store. So remember how Apple refused? Remember how they crushed Parler? That's how they would try to do it with TikTok. They would, Apple Store wouldn't host them anymore, the Google Play Store, all that stuff. And then like Amazon Web Hosting Services or whatever, if they're hosted in the US, they would go after those companies. They can't go after ByteDance. So they're trying to leverage ByteDance into selling by saying you're not going to be able to have TikTok in our country. And this is going to have a huge impact on their stock. So they're just, this whole thing's nefarious. Let's Radio Foreman, cheers, nice to see you. All right, let's continue. So this is the text from Viva Fry. And so he says, very interesting. Just reading the definition of controlled by for an adversary in the TikTok bill. So that was one of the things, allowing the government the authority to shut down an app. And what is the criteria? Then they put it as a foreign adversary. So let's keep reading here. So very interesting. Just reading the definition of controlled by a foreign adversary in the TikTok bill, it reads, C, a person, part C, I guess. Yeah. A person subject to the direction or control of a foreign entity described in paragraph A or B, emphasis added. So hypothetically, Democrats continue with this idiotic Trump is a Russian asset thing. So does that mean they could go after Truth Social because they claim Trump is a Russian asset? Do they get to make the argument to shut down Truth Social on the basis that it is subject to the direction of a foreign person that is domiciled in a foreign adversary country? Democrats would never dare to abuse a law in such a way to go after their political opponent, right? So let's look at this part of the text, this highlighted part of the text in the bill. And it should jump right out at you. So a person subject to the direction or control of a foreign person, and I thought it was in here. It gives the president the authority to make this decision. So the president can just say, yeah, this is a threat to national security because it's under the direction of a foreign adversary. And they could it's written so broadly that could be interpreted. They could apply it to any company, X, Rumble, BitChute, Truth Social, any of the alternate platforms. This is looking, we'll continue, but this is looking a lot more like they're trying to force ByteDance to sell TikTok so they can have control of TikTok and then take this same bill and crush TikTok's competition. to control the narrative. So let's keep going. Let's go over to Ian Carroll a little bit. So this is where it starts to get spicy, folks. And we're going to look at who wants to buy TikTok, who said they are looking into buying TikTok. And yeah, this gets you down the rabbit hole. So down the rabbit hole we go. Let's go over to Ian Carroll here.
In my last video, I showed that the Zionists are trying to buy TikTok, but has anyone looked at who brought the bill in the first place and who pays him? Because I just did. Here, check this out. This is the bill right here. Representative Mike Gallagher. That would be this charming devil right here. And if we look at his top contributors for this election cycle, Palantir and Google are at the top.
If you guys don't know what Palantir is, that should send off all sorts of red flags for you as soon as you hear that. And Google. So we'll get into what Palantir is a little bit later, but if you don't know what it already is, Palantir should not be able to contribute to, they should not be able to lobby. They should not be able to contribute to candidates. This is insane.
With $44,000 and $40,000, but right there, that's AIPAC with $17,000. But wait, there's more. We're going to switch this to the last election cycle in 2022 and scroll down. And would you look at that? His top contributor that got him elected in 2022 was AIPAC with $44,000 contribution. If you didn't know, that's the American Israeli Public Affairs Committee, the Zionist lobby group that doesn't need to register as a foreign agent because they refuse to.
See, that's the thing too, is all rules that we apply to all other foreign nations, how we should be treating dual citizenship. Anytime we tell Israel, like, hey, you can't do that, they're just like, hey, F you. And they just tell us to go F ourselves. And that's just what happens. So they just don't listen. They just don't follow any rules that we set. And we just say, okay, sorry.
So just to clarify, the TikTok ban bill was introduced by a guy whose some of his top contributions are coming from the Zionists and from Google and Palantir, top tech companies associated with the CIA and Mossad. And now Mnuchin's trying to buy it. And ever since he stopped being Treasury Secretary for Trump, his business model is basically just ally with as many Zionists as humanly possible. People like David Friedman, people like the ex-chief of Mossad, Yossi Cohen, getting board seats on companies like Cyber Reason, an Israeli tech cyber company, which it's worth noting also has a Google person on their board, as well as Lockheed Martin. I mean, I'm speculating here. These are not facts, but it's looking more and more like the Israel lobby is the one that brought the bill. And now it's looking like Zionists are lining up to buy TikTok. Can't imagine why. And if you can't imagine why, here's an audio from the chief of the ADL, the Anti-Defamation League, that might enlighten you.
So we're going to stop that there because I'm going to play that audio on a separate clip here. So this bill looks like it was introduced by the Israel lobby, and they're trying to force TikTok to sell by, I mean, they're tanking their stock, and they're going to say you can't operate in America, but if you sell, well, we'll buy it, and then we'll have control of it. It's kind of looking like what's going on here. So if you guys don't know who the Anti-Defamation League, Elon's been going to war with them. Jonathan Greenblatt, he is a scumbag. And let's listen to some leaked audio from him and why it might be so important for the Israel lobby to control TikTok. Let's listen to this leaked audio.
I also want to point out that we have a major generational problem. All the polling I've seen, ADL's polling,
Graham Blanks, did you ask if that's anti-Semitic? Are you asking that facetiously, like jokingly? Well, according to and like Jonathan Greenblatt or other people we're going to listen to later, any criticism of the Israeli government is anti-Semitic. But why aren't we allowed to criticize the Israeli government? Why aren't we allowed to criticize any government? Why aren't we allowed to say also that there is a Jewish mafia? Because there is. We can say there's an Italian mafia. We can say that there's a Russian mafia. We can say that there's an American mob, the Irish, all of this. But once you say that there's an organized crime syndicate within Israel, you are called anti-Semitic. So that term has become a very dubious term, and we're going to get into that. And that's a lot of people are this is the spicy part. A lot of people are very uncomfortable with looking at any of this stuff because you will be called anti-Semitic. You absolutely will. That's not what this is. And there's a huge difference between Jews and Zionists. Not every Jew is a Zionist. And I have tons of Jewish friends. The most influential people in my political sphere are Jews. The person that called me the night of my election and was like, that sucks, man. Also a Jew. Person that lives very close to me that I hang out with all the time. Also a Jew. And I talk about all of this stuff with them. Not all Jews are Zionists. In fact, some Jews are very anti-Zionist. We'll continue.
Massacre was justified is shockingly and terrifyingly high. And so we really have a TikTok problem, a Gen Z problem, that our community needs to put the same brains that gave us Tagli, the same brains that gave us all these other amazing innovations, need to put our energy towards this, like fast. Because again, like we've been chasing this left-right divide. It's the wrong game.
All right. So Jonathan Greenblatt's talking about how the left-right divide, but because this whole Israel-Palestine issue is greatly split both sides. You've got people on the left and on the right that are pro-Israel or pro this war, anti this war on both sides of the spectrum. And people under 30 really are not digging it. What do people under 30 use? TikTok. Here he is on leaked audio talking about how they need to get a control of the narrative for people under 30. They need to get a hold of TikTok. This is, I think, back in December when he's having this conversation. And then all of a sudden, this bill gets rushed to the floor and it's being jammed down everybody's throat. And all the worst people in government are all cheering for it. A little suspicious.
The real game is the next generation. And the Hamas and their accomplices, the useful idiots in the West, are falling in line in ways that are terrifying. Last thing I'll just say, we saw a dramatic change in the language of the activists here in America on October the 8th. The language of groups that we've long tracked, who've long been problematic, like Students for Justice in Palestine and Jewish Voices for Peace, they flipped like this and went to like Iranian propaganda. The language I could show you from their toolkits, because our analysts are in their groups.
Okay, you hear that? The language I can show you from their toolkits because our analysts are in their groups. Wait, I'm sorry, what? You've subverted these different I'm sorry, that's a little shady. You guys are infiltrating school groups to try and paint a narrative? Okay.
We saw this again on October the 8th. It was that fast. Like the language in their toolkits was all about the Zionist entity and lots of other language that we recognized from Iranian propaganda.
Okay. So let's keep going. Let's learn a little more about Jonathan Greenblatt, shall we? So let's listen to Glenn Greenwald talk about it because Greenblatt went on was it Morning Joe? One of those stupid like MSNBC shows. And what show was it? That doesn't matter. And he was saying very similar things, just not in such direct terms. But let's listen to Glenn explain. He does it better than me.
The concern of the pro-Israel lobby in the United States is that there are too many social media platforms, in particular, the ones catering to a younger generation, that are allowing too much anti-Israel content in the United States. Here's what he told Morning Joe.
Let's be frank about it. We've been on this show. We've talked about Instagram. We've talked about Twitter or X, and you've seen my back and forth with Elon Musk. But we need to talk about TikTok. TikTok, if you will, it is the 24/7 news channel of so many of our young people, and it's like Al Jazeera on steroids, amplifying and intensifying the anti-Semitism and the anti-Zion with no repercussions.
See how he stopped himself when he said anti-Zionism? Because he's conflating those two things. He's saying that anybody that's anti-Zionist or doesn't approve of what the Zionists are doing is anti-Semitic. They've made it this whole broad term that if you say, hey, I don't think you guys should be leveling Gaza, and that does appear to be what's happening. Hey, I don't think you guys should be shooting innocent civilians and then laughing about it for fun, because we are seeing that happening too. And then you'll hear a ton of people say that's Hamas propaganda. There's some things that just isn't, just flat out isn't. Like when bulldozers run over journalists, and then a bunch of people are making pancakes the next day, making fun of the journalists that got ran over by a bulldozer. This stuff's really happening. People getting pushed out of their homes in the West Bank. There's a lot of things that should be criticized that the Israeli government is doing, and if you criticize it, you're called anti-Semitic. That's okay.
Gotta ask, Joe.
Is it a coincidence that the Anti-Defamation League went on to MSNBC and announced that their main concern was TikTok and the fact that TikTok is allowing too much anti-Israel speech in December of 2023, and less than 2 months later, this has become the #1 priority of the American Congress? Let's listen to the rest of what he said.
Like there's been a lot of lamentations about the fact that TikTok's ownership is Chinese, but you know what? Oracle owns 10% of the company. General Atlantic owns a piece of the company. Our friends at Sequoia Capital own a piece of the company. So does Sequoia and General Atlantic, does Oracle want to be responsible for spreading anti-Zionism and anti-Semitism? It's time to talk about TikTok. And I think we need members of Congress to be asking them, why aren't they doing enough? And let me be clear. I've met with Shou Chu, the CEO. I've talked to their leadership, but it is long past time for TikTok and its owners and its investors to step up and say, enough, we're going to take action.
Frank. Enough of what? What are you asking them to do? And if you go on TikTok, you'll find that it isn't really the anti-China stuff that's getting censored and throttled.
The executive director of BDO goes onto television in December and says it is time to put our foot down about not allowing TikTok to allow so much anti-Israel content. And 2 months later, the American Congress is ready to ban it for the first time in years, as this proposal has been circulating, as media outlets make clear that inside Congress is in fact the impetus for why this is happening. Where are all my conservative friends who are so deeply concerned about how the internet is being controlled in order to suppress dissent that Washington dislikes? Shouldn't you be up in arms about this?
We'll keep going. So this clip is from Wall Street Apes, and let's go over it really quick. So breakdown on how the FBI and DHS are partnering with video game companies to spy on American citizens. The ADL says gamers are being exposed to white supremacy and extremism through video games. The government, so there's another Gamergate situation going on right now. The ADL says gamers are being exposed to white supremacy and extremism through video games. The Government Accountability Office says that the FBI and DHS should use the same strategy that allowed them to police extremism on social media to regulate the gaming industry. So I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but the federal government. Okay, so he's just quoting her in this quick clip here. This is about a 1 minute clip we'll play.
Hey, so I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but the federal government just said that they're going to be spying on you playing video games to combat extremism. It seems the FBI and the Department of Homeland Security are going to be partnering with gaming companies to fight extremist gamers. Sorry, Call of Duty fans. Government accountability.
I'll interrupt her really quick and say that everybody, I probably say this every show, and no, Whitney Webb does not pay me. Everybody needs to read One Nation Under Blackmail and Volume 1 and Volume 2, particularly Volume 1, because you learn about the origins of intelligence agencies. There's plenty of other books you can learn about that from as well. But when you learn about the OSS, the Office of Strategic, whatever, can't remember, Strategic Services, the origins of that, the origins of the FBI, and who these people were and who they are connected to, and organized crime, it's a rabbit hole. And they've always been trying to control a narrative, and they do it through blackmail, bribery, and death threats.
The office says that the FBI and DHS should use the same strategy that allowed them to police extremism on social media to regulate the gaming industry.
So you remember we learned from the Twitter files what the FBI and Department of Homeland Security was doing to regulate speech on social media. Yeah, they had a direct line to Twitter, and they would just call and say, hey, this guy with 220 followers over here that said, you know, hey, I don't like what so-and-so is doing. Nuke his account. That was happening left and right. And it's also happening on Facebook, Instagram. Google suppresses information with their search algorithm. I remember when Google's search algorithm seemed to change overnight. It was back in about 2014. And it was because I was showing a friend something. I was showing a friend that if you type in Hillary Clinton, as you start to type it in, the things that would pop up used to be the most popular searches for Hillary Clinton. So the things that would pop up would be like Hillary Clinton, Benghazi, Hillary Clinton, murders, whatever, all sorts of horrible things. And they were just the top searches that would pop up. And then I go to show my friend this, and all of a sudden it was like, Hillary Clinton, I'm with her. Hillary Clinton Foundation does all these wonderful things. And all of a sudden it was like it was no longer the most popular searches that were popping up, but it was showing you what you would think Hillary Clinton would want to see. And it was insane to me. It was back in like 2014. Yeah, 2014 that this happened. It was just insanely bizarre. And it's a way of controlling information.
And the Anti-Defamation League, super reputable, says that 20% of adult gamers and 15% of kids playing games report being exposed to white supremacy while gaming. What constitutes extremism, you may ask? Racially or ethnically motivated violence, anti-government or anti-authority sentiments.
So that right there, I'm always talking, I am anti-government. All governments, they do horrible things around the world, particularly our government. And yes, the Israeli government does horrible things, and you should be allowed to criticize them. But as soon as I say that, anti-Semitic. And it's this trope that gets thrown around that shuts everybody up because nobody wants to be called anti-Semitic. People are waking up to this stuff, and people are starting to look at this a lot closer because, well, we'll keep going.
Animal rights or environmental extremism, if you're pro-life, apparently, and all other domestic terrorism threats, which the FBI has already said includes going to church on Sunday. This is super constitutional. Okay, so I hate to be...
So being pro-life, going to church, criticizing the government, all that stuff is apparently something that should be censored. So that's happening in the gaming world now, right? We will keep going. I have so much to get through. I'm making decent time though. All right, let's check the chat really quick. Oh, you guys are quiet over there. All right. I think did I lose all you guys because I'm anti-Semitic? Is that what's going on here? Yeah, if you guys are still in the chat, let me know. Did I lose everybody? I know I'm going to lose some followers over this episode. I don't care. This stuff needs to be talked about. So this is just a tweet from Elon Musk, and I wanted to just show a little bit about the beef between him and the Anti-Defamation League. And it says, Elon says, this is back September 4th. He says, to be super clear, so this is before the October 7th stuff. Yeah. So he says, to be super clear, I am pro free speech, but against anti-Semitism of any kind. Well, what do you mean, Elon? Because anti-Semitism is very loosely defined. If you say, I don't think the Israeli government should be doing what they're doing, anti-Semitic, I'm not down with that. Mike Cernovich comments and says, it's been proven that Democrat groups buy bots and falsely smear people via association. How many anti-Semitic accounts are real versus how many are funded and operated by the DNC to create fear and division? DNC or somebody else? Elon says, it is impossible to tell with unverified accounts whether you're dealing with a small or large number of real people, as sophisticated bots are virtually indistinguishable from humans. With verified accounts, there's also no way to tell if the organization complaining was, and we'll just keep going here. So somebody says, who was questioning this? And he says, since the acquisition, the ADL has been trying to kill this platform by falsely accusing it and me of being anti-Semitic. So they've clearly been coming after him. So this is the Hodge twins. They say, this is the ADL's made-up definition of racism, which is actually a racist statement. They are the real racists. Okay, so the ADL says racism is racism, the marginalization and or oppression of people of color based on socially constructed racial hierarchy that privileges white people. Oh, perfect. Okay. So, all right. So I just wanted to sort of show how the ADL and Jonathan Greenblatt had been coming after Elon hard ever since he bought Twitter and trying to reel him in. Like the ADL was very, very upset when he acquired this platform. And well, is it because they lost control of the narrative all of a sudden? Let's keep going here. Okay, so this is Richard Pearl, and let's listen to him talk about what anti-Semitism is again. So, yes, spicy content, but this word, anti-Semitism, it's what keeps so many people from even thinking about criticizing Israel, and people just don't even want to look at stuff because this word gets thrown around so much. Let's see how he defines the word.
Last two questions. Are you worried about the rise of anti-Semitism in the US, which is new, and other parts of the world?
I'm very worried about the rise of anti-Semitism. The number of incidents of anti-Semitism this year compared to last year, and last year compared to the year before, has been sadly increasing. It's driven in part by Muslim anti-Semitism, which has become very pronounced in the United States, in France, in Germany, in the United Kingdom. So I am indeed worried about it, and I'm particularly worried about the excuse for anti-Semitism, which is to characterize it not as what it is, anti-Semitism, but as anti-Zionism or opposition to this Israeli policy or that Israeli government.
I mean, there it is. They call anything anti-Semitism. And there's another video I should have pulled up, but it's Mossad talks about, we use this as a tactic. Anytime the Israeli government gets criticized, we call people anti-Semitic to get them to shut up. And it works. It greatly works. There was I never wanted to look at this stuff for this exact reason. I just never did. October 7th changed everything because my spidey sense started going off right off the bat. It seemed a lot of stuff about it seemed very inorganic. And what they are doing in Gaza right now, anybody that looks at this with open eyes, I don't know how you can be okay with this. From what I'm seeing, they are going to level Gaza, all of it, and take all of the land. By the time this is over, this will be a 100% land grab. That's what I think is going to happen. And we're not supposed to talk about that. We're not supposed to say that. And from what I'm seeing, that looks like exactly what's happening. And I don't know what the death toll number needs to be for it to be a genocide, but it is absolutely a slaughter going on over there. And they say, oh, it's because Hamas and human shields and all this and that. It's like there's no possible way that all of these locations that you've just bombed the hell out of, apartment buildings, everything that you're bombing the hell out of. And there's Christians in Gaza as well. It's a slaughter. It's an absolute slaughter, telling people to go to one side and then bombing the crap out of that, and then telling them to go back to the other side and then bombing the crap out of that. This isn't all Hamas propaganda. Yeah, sure, of course, there's going to be Hamas propaganda coming out of there as well. But you can see with your own eyes what's happening, and you can go back and see other horrible things that the IDF has done. And I'm not down with it. And I don't care if I lose followers over this. I do not care. I'm going to continue talking about it. Let's keep going. So let's look at the most horrible people that are championing this bill. We'll start with Nancy Pelosi here and see what she has to say about the TikTok ban and why it's so important.
The vote this morning was a vote to protect the national security of our country and the privacy of our citizens. I pointed out at the time that the TikTok in China broadcast into Taiwan that the Uyghurs love what the Chinese are doing. It's genocide. The people in Hong Kong love the crushing of their democracy in Hong Kong. And the Tibetans talked about how they are suppressed on TikTok there and how they are misrepresented on TikTok there. So for these and other reasons, this is about human rights and privacy and democracy. But most importantly, if the Chinese government, as it does with ByteDance and its partnership, controls the algorithm, we are at their mercy. If they control the data, the privacy data of our people, we are at their mercy. So I was very pleased the vote was so conclusive, over 350 votes for this legislation. We hope the Senate will take up a privacy bill.
So they're upset that people are using a platform, speaking about stuff, and their algorithm isn't under their control. That's what she's saying there. She's upset that they don't have control of the algorithm. It's okay. The RGS. The Israeli government is full of Ashkenazi, not actual people of the Jewish faith. I believe it. And there's this whole beef with Chuck Schumer and calling for Bibi Netanyahu to be ousted. I just saw that before the show started. So that's quite interesting. There seems to be, I don't know what to make of that yet. I have to dig into that more, but yeah. Hallucinate. All right, cool. You're here. Okay, let's keep going here. So who else is saying this exact same stuff right across the aisle? Well, it's like iPatch McCain, which is trending right now, and that brings joy to my heart. So let's listen to what iPatch McCain has to say about this.
Access to everything TikTok has, which means data on all Americans, and with data and with access to your app that you're addicted to, you can vastly manipulate an entire population.
Oh, you mean exactly what the NSA, CIA, Department of Homeland Security, and the FBI does? I mean exactly that? You're just upset that China has their own algorithm that people are using?
Chinese have done
already. Are you worried that our intelligence agencies are doing the same thing domestically?
Am I worried that I know that they're not?
All right. So as soon as somebody repeats the question back and they start posturing weirdly, like it's just a straight up lie. Straight up. I know that they're not. Oh, really, Dan? Okay. We're going to prove you wrong in a minute here. And he actually proves you wrong right after this. But not only are you wrong, you are bold-faced lying, because everyone knows that our intelligence agencies are trying to control the narrative, and they're doing it in very specific ways with very specific tools.
They're not manipulating Americans. They're not controlling the flow of information.
Yeah. Did you have some evidence otherwise that you'd like to share?
Yeah.
I mean,
okay.
Before
any serious questions?
Any serious questions? He's such a scumbag.
Congressman, you asked for an example of the U.S. intelligence agencies meddling in our information. What about before the 2020 election, when 50 members came out and said the Hunter Biden laptop was Russian disinformation? Does that count?
No, because I mean they were retired.
What? Everybody was talking about how 51 intelligence officers are saying that this Hunter Biden laptop is Russian misinformation. And that alone changed the outcome of the election. That by itself changed the outcome of the election. And now he's supposed to be the one saying like, hey, the intelligence agencies lied. Now he's saying, oh, well, that was a nothing burger because they were retired. What? Oh, Pat McCain is a scumbag.
They were retired, but the FBI had the laptop for over a year.
There's nothing even close to a TikTok. Access to everything.
Oh, well, Crenshaw's been exposed. What a dirtbag. All right, so Nancy Pelosi and Dan Crenshaw are in lockstep on this. So immediately she'd be like, well, the cathedral is agreeing right across the aisle. It's like usually all they agree on is censorship and war and giving themselves raises. Well, let's keep going. All right, back to Ian Carroll. And yeah, this is actually the video that came out before the one I played earlier, but I wanted to do this in a certain order. And we'll listen to this whole thing.
Until I felt it. So bear with me here. And before the AI censors me, we were all thinking it. Israel is trying to buy TikTok. And this is one of those rabbit holes that I had no idea how deep it was about to go until I felt it. So bear with me here. And before the AI censors me, the country Israel is not trying to buy it. It's people with really deep ties to Israel. This lead came from Whitney Webb, the patron saint of independent journalism. And it starts here with Steve Mnuchin, who just announced that he's putting together investors to buy TikTok. But wait, Ian, Steve Mnuchin was the U.S. Treasury Secretary. He's not Israel, right? Well, let's peel this onion back one layer at a time, starting with just the fact that he's Jewish, just par for the course. And don't worry, we're going to get all the way to Mossad here in a second. But it's important that you know that Mnuchin had a long, illustrious career at Goldman Sachs and hedge funds. He was a key member of the Trump campaign. And among his many ties to questionable people in finance, he's buddies with Michael Milken, who's famous for being one of the richest and most evil scumbags in the history of the last century of finance. Michael Milken revolutionized the art of stealing from the poor and getting really rich by manipulating financial markets. And in the interest of shitting on Trump and Biden when credit is due, Trump pardoned him right before he left office. So anyways, Mnuchin has long been a huge supporter of Israel. He's been talking about how it's time to invest in Israel again after October 7th. And he recently traveled to Israel with his business partner, David Friedman. David Friedman is the United States ambassador to Israel for the Trump campaign. He has a long relationship with Trump going back to 1994, where he was his lawyer representing the Trump organization. And he's not like just Jewish. He's like born to a family of rabbis and went to Hebrew Academy. You know what I mean? And they were trying to recruit the ex-head of Mossad to join their investment fund. But from what I can tell, it didn't pan out, or he got recruited to a different banking enterprise. But that's the kind of person that they want on their team. We're specifically referring to Yossi Cohen, the former director of Mossad, and a bunch of news outlets seemed to pick up on it and were reporting on it when they were just in talks and nothing was confirmed yet. And maybe it heated up too much and they decided maybe not a good look. But one venture that our buddies Mnuchin and Friedman have invested in with their fund called Liberty Strategic Capital is this company called Cyber Reason. It's a U.S.-Israeli late-stage cybersecurity startup. This is their logo. And Steve Mnuchin has a board seat because of his investment firm's funding for this venture. Whitney Webb has done all kinds of reporting about this company, doing simulations about that thing where we vote. Like, gosh, what would happen if we had to impose martial law because the thing where you vote got attacked?
We'll talk about this in a second.
I'm not making that up. It's a deep rabbit hole. And their board of directors includes people like a vice president of security and privacy engineering at Google and a deputy CISO and director of intelligence and operations at Lockheed Martin. And this is the consortium of players that are pooling money to try to buy TikTok. because I've been doing a lot of reporting on this TikTok bill. I've been in a lot of Twitter spaces with people in the policy realm talking about how the policy is getting written and why it's getting written. And from a TikTok creator and TikTok user standpoint, the one thing that we're all thinking is like, the censorship is not about China on TikTok. It's about Israel. And the problem that all these politicians and rich people have about TikTok is pretty obviously, probably, allegedly, my opinion only, the massive support for the other, country that was there before. And it's just so frustrating that when you oppress people's free speech with censorship, they don't just give in and believe what you want them to believe. It's almost like they free speech more. So there's a simple solution. And just to test the whole like China is trying to control what we see on TikTok theory, the other day I made a video about all of the greatest hits of what's bad about China to see if it would get censored. Like I mentioned Tiananmen Square, I hashtagged Tiananmen Square, talked about the Uyghur Muslims, just to see if China's really suppressing these hashtags like we're told, and China's really like keeping everyone from seeing anti-China content, like you'd think that would get censored. Yeah, this screenshot's at 33,000 views yesterday. It's at like 400, 500,000 views today. Doesn't feel like China is trying to censor content or even has the power to. And
now, to clarify, content here, content that's in America, they are censoring the crap out of their own people. And yes, they are an authoritarian regime, but that's not what we're talking about here. This is still the U.S. trying to force a foreign nation to sell one of their products because we don't like that Americans are using the product. And they don't have an enforcement arm to actually make them sell. So they'll go after the American companies that are hosting the platform, like Apple or Amazon Web Services, if they are actually hosting, if they're providing cloud hosting, which I doubt.
As a TikTok creator who gets censored all the freaking time, I can tell you that the things you get censored about are the CIA and Israel and any adjacent topics that those organizations are interested in.
And he has a giant account on TikTok, apparently, like millions of followers.
Like Joe Biden, for example. And yeah, I know a lot of people are going to be like, why anti-Semitism? It's, no. Foreign government lobbying our country with their foreign government dollars to influence our government policy, to do things that are not good for us, to send our aid money to their country to give them free healthcare while we don't have it, actively operating like, blackmail rings with a certain high profile financier that allegedly offed himself, having an unsanctioned nuclear program that they totally don't have, that's never been officially confirmed because they're not supposed to have had it, but like they got it, like after a certain president that wasn't into it suddenly had a part of his head missing. There's a lot of things going on here.
You guys going down that rabbit hole? That's a deep one too. I don't even have time to talk about JFK right now.
And I'm not saying all conspiracy theories are true. I'm just saying like this is a problem. And I'm just saying that, like, you don't have to be very bright to see what's going on here. So you were all thinking it, and you weren't wrong.
So the gentleman that gets tons of money from the Israel lobby brings this bill forward, and then the usual players, the horrible people in government, are championing this bill, and I don't know if it's going to pass, but it's looking like they are trying to force TikTok to sell. Israel is trying to force TikTok to sell. And then once they do, they want to buy it. And it seems, after you listen to Jonathan Greenblatt talking, it's because they want to control the narrative of people under 30, because people under 30 are not happy with what Israel is doing in Gaza. You guys with me? Let's keep going. Let me see. RGS 100% about the nuclear issue with them. Yeah. So if you look up the history of Israel, you'll find that the Rothschilds were the driving force behind it way back in the 1920s. Yeah. And where did the CIA come from? Little interesting there too. Just look at the origins of the Office of Strategic Services. Look at the origins of the FBI and J. Edgar Hoover and what was his name? Meyer Lansky. Was it Meyer Lansky? Yeah, pretty much sure Meyer Lansky getting blackmail on J. Edgar Hoover and that whole thing. He's the one that basically created that blackmail of, people doing unsavory things and getting it on camera and using it to hold above their head to get them to cooperate, like what Epstein did and like what we found out that P. Diddy was just doing. This whole rabbit hole, so many things connecting to one another. It's quite interesting. Let's keep going. So let's go back to Steve Mnuchin. So Steve Mnuchin talking about, and you kind of have to, there's going to be some criticism of Trump in this episode too. I'm going to piss off everybody. I'm going to criticize Biden, Trump, Republicans, Democrats, Israel, everybody. Everybody's getting criticized in this. So Trump ally Steve Mnuchin gathering team together to purchase TikTok. Okay. He's gathering a group of people. I wonder who this group of people is. And I wonder if one of them happens to be Peter Thiel. Let's see. Let's listen to Steve Mnuchin. So heavy ties to Israel. It looks like Israel is trying to force this whole thing, the sale of TikTok. And now Steve Mnuchin wants to buy it.
President Trump signed an order that TikTok had to be sold. And I continue to believe that. So I think the legislation should pass.
So Trump originally was for, censoring TikTok or, making TikTok not available in the country. And I don't like the government doing this, but I was pretty anti-TikTok. Like I was never going to be on TikTok. I didn't like any of that stuff. I bought into the propaganda too. And I think Tucker Carlson did too, because he was sort of on this same page back when he was at Fox News. But you're allowed to change your mind on things, especially when you're presented with new information and you look at things through a new lens. So let's listen to what Mnuchin has to say.
And I think it should be sold. I understand the technology. It's a great business, and I'm going to put together a group to buy TikTok.
You're trying to buy TikTok.
Hallucinate. A lot of them have dual citizenship in Israel. Yes, yes. And so from any country, I don't think anybody in government should be allowed to have dual citizenship. How can you be America first if you have dual citizenship anywhere? It's a conflict of interest. It should not be allowed. It shouldn't be lobbying allowed either.
TikTok. I am, because this should be owned by U.S. businesses. There's no way that the Chinese would ever let a U.S. company own something like this in China.
You said, have you already put a group together?
Yeah, well, I'm working
You're
on it.
exploring a group.
I've spoken to a bunch of people, but
who would be part of your group?
I can't tell that to you now, but
Can we
it would be a
guesses?
combination of investors. So there would be no one investor that controlled this. And the issue is all about the technology. This needs to be controlled by U.S.
Let me ask you a very practical question. If you talk to folks inside the world of TikTok themselves, they would suggest that it is almost impossible within a 6-month time period to truly divest it to another group that, frankly, isn't a Meta or a Google, if you will, because the data for the users is in the U.S., but the algorithm and so much of the other operations are outside of the U.S. What do you know about, now that you've studied this business several years ago, and I imagine you continue to, how you would actually operationally do it?
Well, let me first say, I don't think this should be controlled by any of the big U.S. tech companies. I think there could be antitrust issues on that, and this should be something that's independent, so we have a real competitor, and users love it, so it shouldn't be shut down. The technology, I won't go into all the details, but the app needs to be rebuilt in the U.S. It needs to be U.S. technology. I think there's a lot that could be done.
So he doesn't want to shut it down. He doesn't want to stop people from using it. He just wants to have control of it. He just wants to have control of the narrative, and he wants the U.S. to have control of it, right?
In 6 months, but I would work closely with the U.S. and with China.
But do you think that the bill would need to get rewritten by the Senate effectively to give you more than 6 months? Is it a timing issue? Do you think?
I think a lot can be done in 6 months. It may take a little bit longer, but I think the bigger issue is this shouldn't be controlled by the Chinese. It is an issue for this to be on everybody's
Why?
phone.
Explain why. What are the reasons?
There's certain things I can talk about that are obvious, and there's certain things that I can't talk about that I had access to. But let's just say, when you have this app on everybody's phone, it has the ability to collect an awful lot of data.
Can I ask? So what? Okay. So China is going to know the same things that the U.S. intelligence agencies knows about me? Well, what? That I'm criticizing the U.S. government like I always do? I mean, and you think that China doesn't already have the capabilities to acquire all this same data with the parts that are in our iPhones already? That's not what this is about. He's lying through his teeth right here.
A question about that, though, and this is the thing that I think nobody knows, and you may be one of the few people who does. Do you believe that the data that it is collecting today, both the data that's being collected and potentially certain things that are being pushed to the users, is being influenced and directed by the Chinese government today? Or do you look at this as a prospective national security threat, meaning it has not been put into practice in any meaningful way right now, but the worry is that one day it could? Which is it?
Well, I'm not going to comment on what's today, but I will comment. There's no question.
The RGS, that's not exactly accurate. I mean, doesn't Ilhan Omar have dual citizenship with Somalia? I mean, there's other people in our government that have dual citizenship in other countries.
And that on a forward basis, they have both the ability to influence the data and they have the ability to collect data, which is probably the bigger concern.
But you're not going to comment on today because you can't do that without giving away things that you might know that others wouldn't.
That's true. And also, I think kind of the issue today, again, I think the focus should be, it should be sold. It should be controlled by a U.S. business. It's a great company. It would be terrible if it would shut down. Lots of users use this.
What do you think it'll do?
And we need a competitor to Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube.
To the extent.
All right. Yeah, the RGS. Thank you for reminding me. If you guys can hit that like button, it's always a good help. If you're watching over on Twitter, hit that repost button. I would much like it. I'm sorry if you're watching on X. I don't want to dead name the platform. Yeah, if you could, sharing is always helpful. All right, let's keep going here. So, Mnuchin. Okay, let's keep going. I think I have more about Mnuchin, but I want to talk about, well. Yeah, so this is from Whitney Webb. She just put out a post saying the first VC investment Steve Mnuchin made after leaving Treasury was Israeli intel front called Cyberstream that simulated cyber attacks, canceling the U.S. / declaration of martial law, canceling the U.S. election, and declaration of martial law with DHS during the Trump administration. Mnuchin's now on board. So, Cyberstream. Let's talk a little bit about Cyberstream. So I can't read this whole article. I have 3 different articles pulled up that are super long. I read them earlier. It would take me 20 minutes to read each of them to you guys. So this is from Unlimited Hangout. This is Whitney Webb's website. You can go check it out, but I'll just read the first paragraph here. So Election Day 2020, 32 Americans dead, over 200 injured. Martial law declared and the election itself was canceled. While the horrific scenario seems like a plot out of a Hollywood film, such was the end result of a recent simulation examining the preparedness of U.S. officials from the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the Department of Homeland Security, and the U.S. Secret Service service against bad actors seeking to undermine the upcoming presidential election. Yet, this simulation was not government organized. Yet the simulation was not a government organized exercise, but was instead orchestrated by a private company with deep ties to foreign and domestic intelligence agencies, a company that is also funded by investors with clear connections to individuals who stand to benefit from such a catastrophic election outcome, if a catastrophic election outcome were to become reality. So that is a really long article, but that's what Cyberstream did. Cyberstream ran that simulation, and now Steve Mnuchin is on the board of that. Keep going here. So this is I think I probably will read this whole article. It's not as long, but this is from TechCrunch, I believe. Yeah, TechCrunch. So Same company. Cyberstream raises $275 million at the Series F, adds Mnuchin to board. Okay. Cyberstream, a U.S.-Israeli late-stage cybersecurity startup, so U.S. and Israeli intelligence, provides extended detection and response XDR services, has secured $275 million in Series F funding. The investment was led by Liberty Strategic Capital, a venture capital fund recently founded by Steve Mnuchin, okay, who served as U.S. Secretary of Treasury under the Trump administration. As part of the deal, so that's the other thing. Like Trump said he was going to drain the swamp. He didn't drain the swamp. He surrounded himself with the swamp. And now he's talking about building the FBI a new building. Like, you got to criticize Trump where he deserves to be criticized, because it's like he wants to try to fix the intelligence agencies. The same intelligence agencies that colluded against him are now trying to put him in prison. It's insane. As part of the deal, Mnuchin will join Cyberstream's board of directors along with the Liberty advisor, General Joseph Dunford, who was the chairman of Joint Chiefs of Staff under Trump until his retirement in 2019. Liar Div, CEO or co-founder of Cyberstream, tells TechCrunch that the startup's decision to work with Liberty Strategic Capital came down to the firm's massive network and understanding of the financial and government markets that Mnuchin and General Joseph Dunford bring to our team. For example, so it's not the money, it's just the connections that they know, the people that they know. For example, the executive order on Cyberstream put out by the Biden administration recommends that endpoint detection and response solutions be deployed on all endpoints. What do they mean by that? Dior added, this accelerates the importance of solutions like ours in the public market, and Liberty Strategic Capital has the relationships to help accelerate our go-to-market strategy in the federal sector. This round, which will be used to fuel hyper-growth driven by strong market demand, follows the $389 million in prior funding from SoftBank, CRV, Spark Capital, and Lockheed Martin. Weird. Lockheed Martin. The company didn't state at what valuation it raised the funds, but it is estimated to be in the region of $3 billion. Cybereason's recent growth, which saw it end in 2020 at over $120 million in annual recurring revenue, has been largely driven by its AI-powered platform. Unlike traditional alert-centric models, alert-centric. Just to put it out there, this is pre-crime, you guys. They're trying to aggregate all this data against you to find out if you're an extremist, if you're pro-life and you go to church, and it's pre-crime. That's what this crap is. This is Minority Report. Was that the movie? I think it was the movie. Tom Cruise? Yeah, this is Minority Report, right? Yeah. Cybereason's defense platform is operation-centric, which means it exposes, remediates entire malicious operations. The service details the full attack story from root cause to impacted users and devices, which company claims significantly reduces the time taken to investigate and recover from an enterprise cyber attack. Okay. The companies whose competitors include the likes of BlackBerry-owned Cylance and CrowdStrike. CrowdStrike. Whitney Webb talks about them a lot too. Also this week expanded its channel presence with the launch of its so-called Defenders League, a global program that enables the channel partners to use technology and services to help their customers prevent and recover cyber attacks. Cybereason claims its technology has helped protect customers from the likes of the recent SolarWinds supply chain attack and other high-profile ransomware attacks launched against DarkSide, Revel, and Conti groups. Today's $275 million funding round is likely to be Cyberstream's last before it goes public. Div previously said in August of 2019 the company planned to IPO within 2 years, though he wouldn't be pressed on whether the company is geared up to go public when he was asked by TechCrunch. However, the company did compare its latest investment to SentinelOne's November 2020 Series F round, which was secured just months before it filed for a $100 million IPO. Okay, so that's a little bit about Cyberstream. Let's keep going here. So, yeah, this is from More Than Finances. It's more about Steve Mnuchin. So let's keep going here. I'll read this article too. Check out the chat. Yeah, Minority Report again, but against Norals. Yes. Look into who has dual Ukrainian citizenship. Who does have dual? Just tell me, hallucinate. Yeah, who has? I'm curious. That's okay. There are 22 people watching here. Hit the like button. Yeah, you guys can hit that like button. It'd be nice. Operation Gladio. Yeah, I do need to look into that. You know what? That's funny. That just came across my radar earlier, but I didn't have any time to look into it. Almost every part of our lives. Oh, wonderful. Yeah, this rabbit hole never ends. I was still doing research before I was like, you know what? I have to just get the show together. I could have researched this for a week and then did this show. I'll probably do a follow-up episode on this one because I'll have to. Okay, let's go to this next article here. So former Treasurer Steve Mnuchin wants to buy TikTok in $220 billion deal amid security scrutiny. In a move that could redefine the tech industry and international trade regulations, former Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin has stepped forward to orchestrate a seismic deal aimed to bring TikTok and ByteDance-owned social media giant under American ownership. Mnuchin's initiative, that's a tongue twister, emerges amidst a legislative whirlwind that may determine the future of TikTok in the United States. Mnuchin's assertion to CNBC's Squawk Box is that it's a great business opportunity, and I'm going to put together a group to buy TikTok, echoes the broader sentiment of the apprehension concerning TikTok's operation within the U.S. With ByteDance's 2018 valuation rising to a monumental $220 billion, the former Treasury Secretary and the former Secretary of Treasury's ambitions underscore a complex backdrop of economic and national security considerations. The implication of his words did not go ignored. Seizing the flag of the national interest, Mnuchin, now the leader of the Liberty Strategic Capital, believes that social media Titanic should transition to American hands. His stance finds the alignment with the branded trust of U.S. lawmakers who are rallying behind the bipartisan bill. Bipartisan. Yeah, it's the deep state. That's who's behind the bill. If passed, would compel ByteDance to divest its American TikTok operations or face outright ban. So that they can't force ByteDance to sell. They could just make it so TikTok's not allowed in the United States by going after the people that host them. Apple, for one. Okay. Bringing economic interest and national security. Mnuchin's perspective harks back to traditional apprehensions around the foreign ownership of major channels influencing public opinion and private data. This should be owned by U.S. businesses. See, that's the thing, though. It does not appear that this will be in the hands of U.S. businesses. And the CIA and Mossad are essentially one and the same. And it seems that they're trying to control the narrative around Israel. So it's like they're trying to take a really popular platform that's owned by a foreign nation and hand it to another foreign nation that just happens to be our greatest ally. Let's keep going. There's no way the Chinese would ever let a U.S. company own something like this in China, Mnuchin said, mirroring his... Okay, we already heard him say that. The leaders weigh in on TikTok's future. The development has not seen government officials stepping into the ring, but also major players in the tech investment world, figures like Peter Thiel and Keith Rabios, have publicly expressed their disquiet, labeling the social media platform as a pernicious influence. We'll get into Peter Thiel in a bit, but I bet you I'd be betting some money that he's one of those investors with Mnuchin. Despite the noisy advocacy for divestment, TikTok stances have been fortified with a determined lobbying opposition, suggesting the sale is not on the horizon. When TikTok CEO Xiaozi Chu insinuated that the divestment wasn't a viable route, and a spokesperson from the Chinese Foreign Ministry criticized the bipartisan sentiment as robber's logic, it seems to indicate the Chinese' unyielding stance. So doesn't look like they're going to sell. Market implications and the algorithm quandary. The looming issue, however, isn't merely about the ownership, but also involves the proprietary algorithm that has been TikTok's crown jewel and consequently a point of contention. not only does the algorithm present lucrative opportunities for tailored content, it is also viewed as the potential mechanized weapon by wary legislators. Potential acquirers, including Mnuchin and reported interest from former activist Blizzard CEO Bobby Kotick, find themselves at a bargaining table where the algorithm's fate is speculative and the bill's success in the Senate. Mnuchin at the forefront of a major shift, signaling no immediate strategic discourses. Mnuchin nonetheless marks this bid as the follow-up to his firm's recent lead in a $1 billion capital raise to support New York Community Bank Corp. His record at Treasury Secretary, marked by aggressive tech policies, illustrates a consistent approach to foreign tech entrenchment on the U.S. soil. As the story evolves with TikTok's muted responses, the market, politics analysts, and the globe's tech community remain on alert. The outcry may reconfigure the socioeconomic and political landscape, redefine data security protocols, and potentially set a precedent for future East-West businesses and technology discourse. A course set for uncharted waters, the Senate now prepares to cast its deciding voice on the matter, with the White House reportedly prepared to endorse the bill that would arrive on the president's desk. The outcome will likely reverberate globally, influencing market performance, international relations, and digital policy for years to come. Okay, so, and remember in this bill, part of it is written in there that the president has the authority to say this company is under the influence of foreign whatever, foreign influence. They are susceptible to foreign influence, or they are compromised by foreign influence. So what is to stop them to force the sale of TikTok? Then our government or Israel buys TikTok, and then they crush Twitter, BitChute, Rumble, all these platforms where people are allowed to speak freely and criticize whoever they want. This whole bill, this whole play that is playing out right in front of everybody it looks very, very nefarious, to say the least. All right. Let's talk a little bit about how the intelligence agencies have always been entrenched in all these tech companies, and it is of their highest interest to control the narrative. That's why they're so entrenched in these companies. So this is from Name Redacted. And he says, Google and Meta function as extensions of the U.S. intelligence community, with Jacqueline Loper, Google's head of trust and safety, and Aaron Berman, Meta's head of elections, content, and misinformation policy, both being career CIA officers. It underscores the CIA's substantial control over online censorship. And again, going back to Twitter, the Twitter files, they were completely control of the narrative on Twitter, the intelligence agencies, FBI, Department of Homeland Security, CIA. They had a direct line to Twitter, and they controlled the narrative on Twitter. Anyone that was on Twitter before knows that if you said the wrong things, your account was going bye-bye. Same thing with YouTube. They controlled the search algorithm on Google, Facebook, and Instagram. You know, same thing over there. You can't say certain things or you'll get throttled. These companies are extensions of our intelligence agencies, and our intelligence agencies are highly entrenched and go hand in glove with Israeli Mossad. Why is the CIA big tech revolving door? Why is this CIA big tech revolving door, where career CIA officers wield power to censor and decide what misinformation is, purposefully suppressed in the broader conversation about censorship? Why are career CIA officers like Jacqueline Loper and Nick Rossman, who both gave a history of spreading misinformation and promoting the Russiagate conspiracy theory, now in senior roles at Trust and Safety at Google, deciding what is misinformation and overseeing content moderation? It's people that are some of the biggest purveyors of misinformation. It's always projection. They claim that they're doing things to stop the spread of misinformation when it's actually they just want to be the ones that are spreading misinformation. They want to control the narrative. The cumulative number of former intelligence agencies, intelligence community personnel hired by Meta and Google since 2018 is staggering. Before 2018, there were only a handful, but here are the combined hires by both companies. CIA, 36 individuals, FBI, 68 individuals, NSA, 44 individuals, DHS and CISA, 68 individuals. We learned about CISA through Matt Taibbi and Michael Schellenberger. State Department, 86, DOD, 121. Okay, let's watch this quick video. So this is just people that, this is intelligence agencies talking about their involvement with these companies.
We're also fighting for the awesome talent that's out there to come to private
And
sector.
they're incentivized to go into the private sector.
That's correct. I will proffer though. I think that if they get into our space first, we.
No, I have not talked about the attack on the USS Liberty. There's so much that I haven't talked about. I won't have time. I mean, yeah, you could do a whole series on all this stuff. And if you guys really want to go down the rabbit hole of Israel and everything, there's a 28 part podcast called by Martyr Made that I highly recommend everybody listen to. It's like 30 hours worth of content, and it'll give you a ton of background, and it's presented in a very honest way. So I encourage everybody to check that one out. But no, I haven't talked about the USS Liberty yet. There's a lot of stuff I haven't talked about.
We own them for life.
Let me start that over. We own them for life.
We're also fighting for the awesome talent that's out there to come to private
And
sector.
they're incentivized to go into the private
That's
sector.
correct. I will proffer though. I think that if they get into our space first, we own them for life.
Transparency is incredibly important in the work that I do. How do we think about the balance between harmful content and protecting freedom of speech? It's a balance.
Even though the hacking was done on both sides, they deliberately released the DNC information to WikiLeaks. And so even though the hacking was on both sides, it was the release of the information out into the public domain with the specific motivation of helping Trump get elected.
So
Really? The WikiLeaks, that was with the motivation to help Trump get elected? I'm pretty sure that Julian Assange isn't a Trump fan. And look what they're trying to do to Assange. They're trying to do the same thing to the Tate brothers right now.
Been able to direct more than 2 billion people worldwide to expert.
Both the people, the lady you just heard talk and this guy right here, Aaron Berman, both CIA, high level at Facebook now, determining what is allowed to be talked about on that platform.
Health resources through our coronavirus information center.
Oh, little slip up there, isn't it? And yeah, why was intelligence agencies so involved in allowing people to talk about COVID and the vaccines? Why were intelligence agencies so involved in that? That's a whole nother rabbit hole.
Clinton is a known quantity. She's the ultimate Washington insider in this, and there's no one who has more foreign policy expertise. So Donald Trump is the ultimate wild card. He's unfamiliar with how the intelligence community works, and their great fear is that he could politicize them, as he's done with the debates and his information about the Russian hacks.
This is extremely significant. We have increasing mounting levels of evidence that Russia's fingerprints are all over this. I mean, when Trump talks about being
misinformation deliberately spread by the people who are saying that they are censoring misinformation. CIA.
Caught in the act. I mean, that's exactly what we have here. The hackers have been caught in the act. And we know that Russia has the means and the motivation and the capabilities to do all of this. So this is completely unprecedented in U.S. electoral history. I can't even stress how significant it is.
Examples, we had labels on posts about COVID-19 and vaccines to show additional information from the WHO. When we do remove misinformation from the platform, which I'll talk about in a second, we built a tool so that we notify users who saw that misinformation before we removed it, so that they have access to the authoritative information.
We remove misinformation, and then we have tools to identify who saw that misinformation first, and then we redirect them to the real information. Continue.
And this election cycle, as we partner with Facebook and YouTube and Twitter and all the social media companies, has really exacerbated their concern and want to help be a solution.
I'm sorry, did he just say they were partnering with them? I thought they weren't allowed to do that.
Protecting our democracy.
We've really strengthened our partnership with our government agencies since 2016.
I think
That was Jack Dorsey, former head and creator of Twitter, partnered with government agencies. Okay, wonderful.
heard us and many others talk about publicly the very good work in terms of sharing information from the intelligence community with social media platforms to consider relative to their terms of service how to remediate inauthentic content.
In decreasing the dissemination of fake news, in transparency. And I think that's what you're seeing pay off. I think we've all said in the private meetings we had, as well as this public discussion, that tighter coordination really helps us.
In the community, it's very similar, whether you're CIA, NSA, NGA, and let's make a difference. What we have in the community, the FBI probably more than anybody, once we get them in, we own them for life.
That's the second time he said that. So he wants people to get people into the FBI, NSA, CIA, and then put them out into the real world where they have influence and they own them for life. So he just said it right there. So you've got these two people, tons of people that are in high level positions at these tech companies that are controlling what information you have access to, and the government owns them for life. So this is all Google. So you got Nick Rossman, Trust and Safety. He was with the CIA for 5 years. Christopher Porter, Threat Intelligence. He's with the CIA and the ODNI for 12 years. Jacqueline Loper, Trust and Safety. These are all Google. CIA, 10 years. Deborah Wituski, Global Intelligence. CIA, 19 years. Chelsea Magnant, Policy Manager. CIA, 9 years. Jamie Washington, Threat Intelligence, CIA, 13 years. These are all CIA people, high level positions at Google, determining what information you have access to. They are all CIA.
Is an incredibly important year for elections, not just with the U.S. midterms, but around the world. There are important elections in India, in Brazil, in Mexico, in Pakistan, and in Hungary that we want to make sure that we do everything we can to protect the integrity of those elections. Now,
and what does the CIA do in other countries? They overthrow governments is what they do. And remember how Mark Zuckerberg was on Joe Rogan and he just admitted to, yeah, we censored the Hunter Biden laptop information at the direction of the FBI because they told us that it was probably Russian misinformation. Remember, Dan Crenshaw said they were retired, those CIA agents that came out and said, those former CIA agents, the 51 of them that came out and said the Hunter Biden laptop is Russian misinformation. They were retired. They didn't have any influence. Weird. The FBI told Mark Zuckerberg the exact same thing, and he censored all of that, which changed the outcome of the election. So this is Aaron Berman. And again, he's got his pronouns in his bio, he, him. Misinformation policy at Meta, former CIA. He says, here's how we're preparing for the Brazil election. Another example of extent Meta goes to reduce misinformation. So they're meddling in Brazil's elections as well. And here's his same guy saying, here's how Meta is preparing for the Philippines election, including combating misinfo by removing some content, partnering with fact checkers, and helping users find voter registration information. Meddling in the Philippines elections. Oh, here he is again. Check out Facebook's response to Oversight Board recommendations on COVID-19 misinformation. We are increasing transparency as recommended, and will continue looking to health authorities to tell us what information is likely to contribute to imminent physical harm. One more. Same guy, Aaron Berman. Here's more on what Meta is doing in response to Russia's invasion of Ukraine, including adding several safety features and taking extensive steps to fight the spread of misinformation. We are working 24/7 on this. So they're really trying to control the narrative around a lot of things. Brazil elections, Philippine elections, American elections, obviously, COVID-19, vaccines, and the Ukraine war. And, well, now I would wager to bet that they are censoring misinformation regarding what's happening in Palestine. Same thing, I would imagine. It always seems like they are on one side of the coin. All right, let's continue here. Check the chat. Ace Caulfield. Let's see. Could you just add that to your wait? Let me see. You just add that to your bio. I'm reality. It's so compartmentalized. No one would ever know. People could just add CIA to their bio. Oh yeah, I think he did actually in his Aaron Berman. No, he has it in his bio. It's there, right there. It says misinformation policy at Meta and former CIA. So he has it in his bio. They don't even care. Let's see. Prairie Kid RGS sent me. Right on, man. Appreciate it. Thanks, RGS. I like it. All right, let's keep going here. I still got a little bit more to get through. This might not go as long as I thought it would, but it might. It'll probably go 2 hours. Let's keep going here. So, and okay, this is where I criticize Trump because this is what Trump was saying. Trump wasn't anti-censorship. Let's listen to what he was saying a few years ago. So this is from August 5th, 2019. This is Trump talking about censoring stuff on the internet.
Perils of the internet and social media cannot be ignored, and they will not be ignored. In the 2 decades since Columbine, our nation has watched with rising horror and dread as one mass shooting has followed another over and over again, decade after decade. We cannot allow ourselves to feel powerless. We can and will stop this evil contagion. In that task, we must honor the sacred memory of those we have lost by acting as one people. Open wounds cannot heal if we are divided. Perils of the internet and social.
All right, so I'm pretty sure this was after the Vegas shooting. So they got Trump to do what they wanted after that Vegas shooting. He did the bump stock ban. You hear him here talking about censorship. I would like to think that Trump has learned from all this stuff, and he's learned that the intelligence agencies got him. They tricked his ass. He surrounded himself with the swamp. I would like to think that he won't do that again, but he hasn't shown us anything that would suggest that. Again, talking about how wants to build the FBI a new facility. And he can't get off the vaccines. He can't, like, when Biden did his State of the Union crap, he put out Biden said how he was talking about the vaccines. And he even said that the vaccines are now being treated to cure cancer or to treat cancer. Unreal. And then Trump quotes him and basically said, hey, those are my vaccines. They would have been done with that Operation Warp Speed. And he starts bragging about it. And his base is not into that. I'm not into that. And you just can't get off of it. It does not instill confidence. How he surrounded himself with the swamp, bump stock bans. Yeah. So Trump needs to be criticized as well. Probably lost some followers there too. So I almost didn't bring this clip into the show because it's not so much, it kind of doesn't fit, but it does. So a lot of this stuff, it needs background that I can't go into in a 2-hour show. But again, Whitney Webb's book, One Nation Under Blackmail, the book Chaos about Charles Manson and MK Ultra, tons of background on super nefarious stuff that the CIA and FBI were doing. And the Iran-Contra crap is insane. And it blows my mind how many people don't know about Iran-Contra, because that rabbit hole is all. You know what? I'll do a whole episode on Iran-Contra because that needs to be talked about too. And maybe I'll mix in the USS Liberty stuff into that. But nah, that doesn't really fit in there. I need to do a deep dive into Epstein. And the thing is, you could do like a whole series on this stuff. But this is a clip from Joe Rogan. Let's watch it really quick. This is just him talking about, I believe, he's talking about drug running by the CIA. He's talking about Iran-Contra here.
He caught the CIA selling drugs in South Central LA and then exposed it on a hearing on CNN. Have you seen this? Jamie, pull it up.
I will tell you, Director Deutsch, as a former Los Angeles police narcotics detective, that the agency has dealt drugs throughout this country for a long time. Director Deutsch, I will refer you to 3 specific agency operations known as Amadeus, Pegasus, and Watchtower. I have Watchtower documents heavily redacted by the agency. I was personally exposed to CIA operations and recruited by CIA personnel who attempted to recruit me in the late 70s to become involved in protecting agency drug operations in this country. I have been trying to get this out for 18 years, and I have the evidence.
You should immediately bring that information to the Los Angeles Police Department.
I did bring this information out 18 years ago, and I got shot at and forced out of LAPD because of it.
It's wild. He caught the CIA.
And the reason I mentioned the book Chaos is because when you find out a lot about how entrenched the CIA and intelligence agencies were in Los Angeles, mainly in the Los Angeles Police Department and the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, and the whole the murders. Geez, what are the Charles Manson murders? Roman Polanski's wife, and I'm blanking on her name right now. You guys know what I'm talking about, but that whole thing, how it was hushed up. And yeah, read the book Chaos. That's a crazy one too. We'll keep going here. Actually, this probably will go long, this show, because I got a whole other article I want to read. So now we're going to talk about Palantir. So Peter Thiel and Palantir, and this is from Biff Dawn. How messed up is reality when the man Peter Thiel runs a data spy company so advanced it is the equivalent of the all-seeing eye, and names it after Saruman's reptilian-shaped eye of Sauron's sphere in Lord of the Rings, Palantir. So that's why I did that Eye of Sauron thumbnail for this episode, because Palantir is that I could do a whole episode on Palantir by itself, but Peter Thiel, which I have a hunch will be involved with Steve Mnuchin in this potential purchase of TikTok. And well, let's look at Palantir. So this is an article from The Intelligencer, and this is from a few years ago. That's from 2020, September of 2020. So techie software soldier spy. Palantir, big data's scariest, most secretive uniform is going public. But is it a crystal ball? Just smoke or just smoke and mirrors? So back in 2003, John Poindexter got a call from Richard Pearl. I'm not going to read this whole article. I won't have time. Got a call from Richard Pearl, an old friend from their days serving together in the Reagan administration. Pearl, one of the architects of the Iraq War, which started that year, wanted to introduce Poindexter to a couple of Silicon Valley entrepreneurs who were starting a new software company. The firm Palantir Technologies was hoping to pull together data collected by a wide range of spy agencies. Okay, so data aggregation, a lot of what Edward Snowden was talking about. Everything from the human intelligence and cell phone calls to travel records and financial transactions to help identify and stop terrorists planning attacks on the United States. So, I'm sorry, my dog just made a very loud noise. Okay, it's pre-crime, and they're doing it under the guise of terrorist attacks on the United States. Okay, well, remember sorry, I'm blanking, guys. What was the Patriot Act? Sorry, this is like. Look how the Patriot Act was used against the J6ers when they were originally supposed to be used against terrorists, right? Palantir will be the same thing. You know, we talked about what the intelligence agencies consider extremists, people that are pro-life, people that go to church, people that criticize the government, extremists. This is Palantir's pre-crime. So Poindexter, a retired rear admiral who had been forced to resign from Reagan's national security advisor over his role in the Iran-Contra scandal, wasn't exactly the kind of starry-eyed idealist who usually appeals to Silicon Valley visionaries. Returning to the Pentagon after 9/11 attacks, he had begun researching ways to develop a data mining program that was as spooky as its name: total information awareness. His work, and that makes you think of Klaus Schwab talking about, in the future it will be all transparent. You will have no privacy. Same idea. Dubbed a super snoop's dream by conservative columnist William Safire, was a precursor to the National Security Agency's sweeping surveillance programs that were exposed a decade later by Edward Snowden. So again, apply AI to this. This gets scary. I mean, everything you guys ever do, it's, they used to have to bug houses for audio and stuff. Now we bug our own houses. Amazon Alexa, Siri, we got microphones. Siri, okay. Amazon Alexa. When you say, "Hey Alexa," and she responds, well, doesn't that mean that Alexa has to be listening all the time when you ask Alexa? So if Alexa's listening all the time, what's to stop nefarious people from quite literally recording everything that you say, or at least using keywords to set off flags and aggregate that data? And then it's so much data, though, because if they did it on every single person, it's just too much data, right? Not with AI. All of this stuff's coming together now. Yet Poindexter was precisely the reason Peter Thiel and Alex Karp, the co-founders of Palantir, wanted to meet. Their new company was similar in ambition to what Poindexter had tried to create at the Pentagon, and they wanted to pick the brain of the man who was widely viewed as the godfather of modern surveillance. When I talked to Peter Thiel early on, I was impressed with the design and the ideas they had for their user interface, Poindexter told me recently, but I could see they didn't have, well, as you call it, the back end to automatically sort through the data and eliminate the tedious task for the users. So the people that need to sort through the data, he didn't see how they could possibly have the back end to do that. And my feedback from the people who used it at the time, they were not happy with it at all. It was just too manual. So they would have to, it was just too clunky. There's too much data to sift through. It wasn't usable. AI. And what's happening with OpenAI right now? Who's involved with OpenAI? Who's sitting on the board now? Smoking his pipe just as he had when he testified to Congress 33 years ago about his role in facilitating covert arms sales to Iran. Poindexter told me he had suggested to Karp and Theil that they partner with one of the companies that worked on the total information awareness. But the two men weren't interested. They were a bunch of young, arrogant guys, Poindexter said, and they were convinced they could do it all. 17 years later, Palantir is seeking cash on its ability to do it all. Over the years, the company has worked with some of the government's most secretive agencies, including the CIA, NSA, and the Pentagon's Special Operations Command. As recently as 2 years ago, its value was estimated at $20 billion, evaluating it to be the loftiest heights of the tech unicorns. Evaluating it. Privately held companies valued more than $1 billion on September 30th. Palantir is scheduled to go public, selling his shares in a highly anticipated gambit that would make Karp one of Silicon Valley's richest CEOs and cement the reputation of Theil, the first outside investor in Facebook and co-founder of PayPal. Oh, so he's buddies with Elon Musk. What's Elon Musk doing? Elon bought Twitter and X. There's a whole lot of data on Twitter and X. Huh. Is this really a honeypot? Linda Yaccarino, CEO. Should we really be trusting Elon so much? As one of the most visionary tech enterprises of his generation, Palantir's public offering is founded on the company's sales pitch that its software represents the ultimate tool of surveillance. Named after the Seeing Stones of Lord of the Rings, Palantir is designed. It's like, think about that too. Those were evil, but it's so insidious. Named after the Seeing Stones in the Lord of the Rings, Palantir is designed to ingest the mountains of data collected by soldiers and spies and police, fingerprints, signals intelligence, bank records, tips from confidential informants, and enable users to spot hidden relationships, uncover criminal and terrorist networks, and even anticipate future attacks. It's pre-crime. Theil and Karp have effectively positioned Palantir as a pro-military arm of Silicon Valley. Pro-military arm of Silicon Valley. A culture dominated by tech gurus who view their work as paving the way for a global utopia. Remember all that land that's being purchased out in California near Brentwood? All that private land that nobody knew who bought it and what they were going to do? They're building a utopia, folks. Palantir declined to comment for the story, citing the mandatory quiet period prior to the listing. It's a strange moment given the widespread alarm over the ever-expanding reach of technology for a tech company to be marketing itself as the most powerful weapon in the national security state's arsenal. So that's what's crazy too. This is going to be a publicly traded company, and it's just straight up intelligence agencies' tools. That's all this is. It's insane. Wrapping itself in what one Silicon Valley veteran calls the mystique of being used to kill people. But as Palantir seeks to sell its stock, Wall Street, even some of its initial admirers, are warning that the company's software may not live up to its hype. More than a dozen former military and intelligence officials I interviewed, some of whom were instrumental in persuading government agencies to work with Palantir, expressed concerns about the firm's penchant for exaggeration, its apparent flouting of federal rules designed to ensure fair competition, and its true worth. So, the company has largely succeeded, they say, not because of the technology wizardry, but because its interface is slicker and more friendly than the alternatives created by defense contractors. When you get into trouble is when the software gets complicated that you have to send people in to manage it, said one former CIA official who is complimentary of Palantir. The moment you introduce an expensive IT engineer into the process, you've cut your profits. Palantir, it turns out, has run headlong into the problems plaguing many tech firms engaged in the quest for total information awareness. Real-world data is often messy and complex for computers to translate with lots of help from humans. All right, this article is insanely long, so I can't read the whole thing, but I highly encourage you guys to read it. I'll tweet it out after this show ends. And yeah, this is, it went about 2 hours. That's what I was pretty much expecting. I expected it to go a little bit longer, actually. But yeah, that's about where I'm going to end it. I'll end it with an Ian Carroll video, another one, but yeah, let's check with the chat really quick. Let's see. I don't know. What do you guys think? So let's see. Ace Caulfield. Have you ever heard of the band called Hobo Magic? They played in Santa Cruz and in Felton. The bass player and is also no, I haven't heard of them at all. I'll check them out though. Send me a link or something. Yeah, I'll check them out. Michael Letter, Lord of the Rings is awesome, man. Once a year on a rainy day, I do a Lord of the Rings. Just sit there and watch all three of them, and I love it. Yeah, that's what the name comes from, of Palantir. Yeah, go down the Palantir rabbit hole. That's a whole other one. Sorry, the chat got a little busy there. I'm trying to see where I left off. Okay. Who's very close buddies? If they give up the power over TikTok, we'll have a true state-controlled media like you do up there with PK. Well, all like we just talked about, Facebook, Google, Instagram, formerly Twitter, they are state controlled. Like that's the only reason why they're so obsessed with TikTok, is because it's used primarily by people under 30 and they don't have control of it. And that's also why Jonathan Greenblatt with the ADL was going so hard after Elon. If you ask me, they got to Elon. Like this, I don't trust what Elon's doing. And then if you look at the origins of SpaceX, and obviously his relationship with Peter Thiel, it's suspect. And I don't have the greatest confidence in Trump either. I mean, I'm to the point where I'm not even positive I'm going to vote for him. No, I'm not going to vote for Biden. But there's Michael Rechtenwald is the person that I agree with the most. I think he's going to take the Libertarian nomination. And does he have a chance to win? Highly, highly, highly unlikely. Probably no. But I mean, are we supposed to do the thing where we're supposed to vote for someone we don't agree with just because they have a better chance? Or are we really supposed to vote with who we agree with the most? And Rechtenwald, he hasn't shown any indication that he will be playing ball with the intelligence agencies. And this chapter that Whitney Webb has in her book about Trump and his relationship with Epstein and other dubious actors back in the 80s is Trump's relationship with Epstein is more than he's said. And yeah, so I'm not even 100% positive that I'm going to vote for Trump. It's either going to be Rechtenwald or Trump, and I'm still undecided. So you guys can maybe sway me in one direction or the other, but Trump hasn't shown me any indication that he is going to not surround himself with the swamp again. And any sort of loyalty, like hardcore loyalty that I had to the man, went out the window when he allowed the January 6ers to sit and rot in solitary confinement and he didn't pardon Julian Assange. And again, bump stock bans, just his support for not support, but the ongoing war in Yemen, just lots of stuff to criticize about Trump. So, yeah. Well, we'll keep going. This is probably where I'm going to end it here. This is one more Ian Carroll video. If you guys don't follow him, so his @ on Twitter is cancel C Loco. So CANCELCLOCO. Cancel Loco. Just search Ian Carroll, and this is one of my favorite accounts to follow on Twitter. This dude does great work. After being a content creator for the last year and I still have so much to learn, and the future is looking promising for this stuff. So I'm just very impressed with the work that this guy does. But let's watch this last video from Ian Carroll. It's about 5 minutes long. I'll probably pause it a couple times and talk.
Everyone on TikTok knows that the TikTok ban has nothing to do with China. It's all about Israel. Been talking to a lot of people involved with the bill on Twitter Spaces, and there's one thing they all have in common. They're not on TikTok. And if they were, they would know that it's not China hashtags that are getting censored. It's Israel hashtags. And I accidentally proved this yesterday when I posted this video about how AIPAC is sponsoring the TikTok ban bill, and I hashtagged it with Free Palestine. See, right there, Free Palestine, Free Palestine. And it immediately got throttled, and I could tell it was going to get no views. So I reposted it with no hashtag. And about 12 hours later, no hashtags equals almost 500,000 views. And Free Palestine hashtags, 23,000 views.
So, I wonder why that happened.
And despite the overt censorship of pro-Palestinian content on TikTok, Palestinian support hashtags are the most viewed of all hashtags, and Israel support hashtags are non-existent because we all see what's going on. Because there's two claims the lawmakers are making. They're claiming that China can suppress anti-China content through suppressing hashtags, for example, and they're claiming they can spy on you and get your data. Problem is, I recently made an anti-China video using all the anti-China hashtags. Tiananmen Square, Uyghur Muslims. I talked all about it. I showed footage of Tiananmen Square. We're at almost 600,000 views. No suppression.
So if they're right there, it seems that they are suppressing negative Israel content much more than they are suppressing negative China content. It's just, he's got numbers right there.
Then my homie James Lee, who's a gangster who you should follow, he charted out how much money all the Congress people are taking from AIPAC, from Israel lobby money. And it's so much money.
And if you look at all those people and look how they're voting towards this, they are highly supporting this on both sides of the aisle. It's the swamp. It's the deep state. And then who's not supporting it? The people that Massey, Rand Paul, people that we trust, kind of.
And then he plotted it out on a graph to show that the people that are receiving more money, see x-axis is more Israel money, means you're more likely to have voted yes on the bill. And the people that voted no, they all took far less money from Israel lobbies. Oh, and real quick, the claim about them harvesting your data, like, you clearly don't understand the nature of cyber warfare today, and you should read this book, do a little research. China's in all of our shit anyways. They can have all of our data, whether you outlaw an app or not. And like, who the fuck cares? Like, what are they going to do? Force me to buy a knockoff product on Amazon? Like, China's not going to target U.S. citizens with our data. Like, you're going to send me anti-government propaganda to subvert our American democracy? Like, no need. I'll make that content myself for you. See, government, the problem is when you have a country where freedom of speech is literally the First Amendment of your Constitution, your own citizens are allowed to make anti-government content when you suck ass at your job. And Israel really does not like when we do our freedom of speech thing. And so they have paid everyone off and have come up with a scapegoat for national security to try to take TikTok away before the election. But trust me, everyone sees what's going on, and it's only going to increase the sentiment. It's only going to take more votes away from your guy, Joe, and it's only going to strengthen Palestinian resistance. That's the thing about resistance. The more you oppress, the
I think he's wrong about the Joe part there. So Joe, he might not have seen this yet. Joe Biden came out and agreed with Chuck Schumer right now about, basically taking Netanyahu out of power. So that's got me all messed up because I don't know what to make of that. So Chuck Schumer and Joe Biden want to take Netanyahu out of power. It's almost like there's heads button within Israel about who should lead this charge, if you will. And yeah, I mean, they're both Democrats. It could be as simple as, tons of young Democrats who are supposed to be Joe Biden's base are very anti this war that's going on right now. And they're seeing what's happening in Palestine, and they're not about it. Granted, these are a bunch of idiot leftists with masks and crap that, shutting down bridges and stuff. And I am not about any of that. I don't support Hamas. I don't even necessarily support Palestine. I don't like that they are being carpet bombed, essentially. I am anti-war. I don't want to see kids killed. I don't want to see innocent people killed. I most definitely don't want to see U.S. not even tax dollars, just any U.S. funding going towards it. I don't want any of that. I'm not pro. I'm not. Yeah, it doesn't mean I like Muslims more than Jews either. It's you be anything that you want if you're a good person. And anyway, you guys get what I'm trying to say. Maybe it's them pandering to their base a little bit, trying to pull Bibi Netanyahu out of power, saying you're going too far with the whole Palestine thing, and they're just trying to show that they're doing something. Maybe, I don't know. I'm just speculating, but Biden seems to be supporting that. So that's a whole other thing I need to look into.
Stronger resistance gets. So anyone that's still telling you that this bill is about China is really uninformed. Obviously not on TikTok. Anyone that's saying the bill is about them being able to ban any app they want is kind of missing the plot. Like, sure, maybe they could, but that's not why they're bringing it now on such a fast timeline. It's because our boy Izzy is in a real pickle and they need to do something quick and before the election. And the gloves are off. Y'all are coming for our free speech. Y'all are coming for our platforms where we talk and we share information. Like, TikTok is not an app for videos of dancing kids. TikTok is an app for journalism. Most of TikTok is talking head videos like this of people sharing information. And that is why it is dangerous to them. If you're not on TikTok, I guarantee you have no idea what you're talking about, because it is not what you've been told, and it is not what you think it is.
And that's how I've changed my mind, because I was full on board with TikTok's evil. It's a CCP run company, all that. I was all about that. I was never saying that it should be banned, because I don't like the government banning things. I'm not about that. I'm a libertarian. I don't want the state stepping in to do that stuff. But I was of the mindset that, like, yeah, TikTok's bad. Well, I downloaded TikTok today, and I'm going to be getting on TikTok. So you guys can follow me over there too.
The reason why they want to ban TikTok is because things like this spread really fast. I'm going to leave you with this clip from the director of the ADL.
We'll watch this again. This is Jonathan Greenblatt's leaked audio about how they're trying to control the narrative. And that is very true. Like, even my stepmom. So I try to talk to my stepmom about this, and as soon as I say, they're committing a genocide in Gaza, that sure is what it looks like, and immediately it's all well, you know what they say when they say to the river, or from the river to the sea, right? It's like, what do you think that means? It's like, okay, well, even if you think that it means the Palestinians want to wipe out all the Jews, even if you think that's what that means, and I don't think that's what it means. I don't. I think some people mean it in that way, but I don't think everybody means it in that way. I think they mean they want to return to their homeland. Some, yes, there's plenty of Palestinians, Hamas, that do want to wipe out all the Jews. Guaranteed. The thing is, Israel's wiping out all the Palestinians. That's what it looks like. They're actually doing it. That's the problem with this whole thing. So when people start saying from the river to the sea, look what they want to do. Well, look what you are actively doing right now. So this is a generational divide. It's split the parties down the middle. I mean, look at Destiny today. He just debated a Jew that's anti what's going on. And it's actually, again, he's like an anti-Zionist. He just debated Destiny, and Destiny got his clock cleaned, but it's completely split people on the left and on the right. And it does seem to be more of a generational issue. He is right about that. And that's why they want TikTok, because 30 and unders are the ones that are using it. But that's BS too, because nobody's saying that Hamas's massacre was justified. People are trying to say that, hey, you guys have been subjugating them for decades now. You control every aspect of their lives, and it's kind of a little understandable how they would hate you, because you've kept them under your thumb. There's people that have been under the thumb for their entire lives. Not saying the attack was justified, but saying, like, yeah, if I watch them kill my dad and kill my brother, and they control the information I have access to, they control the food coming in and out, they control the water, they control the electricity, they control the internet. Yeah, I'd probably be pretty pissed at those people too, especially if I have no option to leave. If I can't leave this tiny little area, yeah, I'd probably be a little bit pissed too. That's not justifying what Hamas did. It's just saying that, yeah, they're kind of pissed. They're kind of understandable why they're pissed.
Shockingly and terrifyingly high. And so we really have a TikTok problem, a Gen Z problem, that our community needs to put the same brains that gave us Taglit, the same brains that gave us all these other amazing innovations, need to put our energy towards this, like, fast. Because again, like, we've been chasing left-right divide. It's the wrong game.
What we're seeing right now is the product of them putting all their energy towards this problem fast.
So, to recap, it looks like Israel is trying to force the sale of TikTok, and Israel is trying to buy TikTok to control the narrative around what Israel is doing in Palestine. and control the narrative of whatever else they want. And they're doing it with the support of people that are heavily entrenched in Israel within the U.S. government and intelligence agencies that are heavily entrenched with Mossad. Seems to be what's going on with the whole TikTok thing. So I'll leave it at that. That's pretty much what I got for the night. So if you guys are still here, if you want to give that like button a tap, always appreciated. If you're watching on Twitter, there's a little icon you can tap if you want to support the show. Up next to my name, if you're watching on the app, you can go there and you can tip. It'll bring you to my Venmo, my Cash App, all that kind of stuff. This is how I keep the lights on, folks. I try to do a show every night. This is what I'm doing now, and I will be taking the show to the next level. I got some exciting things going on in the background here, working on some stuff. So I will let me stop sharing here. All right, so you guys can see my ugly face. So also, if you want to support the show, this is my Give, Send, Go. I got my Give, Send, Go set up. I will be doing this more officially. I'm going to turn this into an LLC, folks. I am going to be starting a website that you'll be able to go to. You'll be able to join the CaliBased club. That's in the works. There's all sorts of stuff in the works. But for now, if you want to support the show, want to help me keep the lights on, this is my Give, Send, Go. Again, if you're watching on Twitter, there's a little icon next to my name that you can tap. It's a little $sign symbol if you want to tip me, support the show. My Give, Send, Go is www.givesendgo.com/GACW6 if you want to support me there. And yeah, that's pretty much what I got for the night. Thank you guys so much for hanging out. Let's see. Hallucinate. Always good to see you. You've been around forever. You've been around since the beginning. You're one of my homies. Terry Wallace. I didn't see you tonight. I didn't see a bunch of you guys tonight. B Sizzo, Danger. I missed you guys. Hopefully you'll watch a little later. But Hallucinate, the RGS, Prairie Kid, thank you so much, man. I'm glad that if you're new here, welcome. Thank you so much. Oh, man. Israel's response to the October 7th attack is not proportionate to the scale of the attack. I agree. 70% of the deaths on October 7th were from Israelis shooting into the crowds. There's evidence of that as well. Prairie Kid, TikTok is also making Joe Biden look like a bumbling tool. Not good for Dems. Absolutely. Am I on truth? No, I should be on truth, but I'm not. And I mean, I'll just say, just October 7th, the moment it happened, right from the get-go, I was getting the whole babies and incubators vibe. Like, wait a minute. You're telling me that this attack where journalists were entrenched with Hamas, journalists were in with Hamas when the attack happened, Egypt warned Israel about it, and they flew paragliders in that you can't just hop on one of these makeshift paragliders with engines and know how to use it. You got to practice. So they didn't see them practicing. It's just kind of right there. They didn't see any of that. So yeah, my spidey sense was going off the rails right from the beginning. It was like, wait a minute, you got Mossad, the most intelligent intelligence agency on earth. They sort of pride themselves in that sort of thing. And it took them 6 hours to respond to the attack. Yeah, something's not adding up here. So I immediately have to ask the question, did they allow the attack to happen to justify what they're doing in Gaza right now? The question has to be asked. And people will call you anti-Semitic for asking that question. Really? Because I would say it's anti-Semitic to allow your own people to be slaughtered in order to push an agenda. And that is what looks like happened to me. So probably lost a lot of followers on this one. I'm going to keep talking about it. This is just what I'm seeing. So the RGS, also the best rocket and missile defense in the world. Yeah, no kidding. They just happened to just let them run rampant. So let's see. Ace Caulfield, dude, you only have one electricity company option? Yeah. Oh, it's insane. The electricity here in California it's insane, man. Like I had it was a $405 bill. I have a 500 square foot place. My place is tiny. I don't use tons of power. I think our energy prices are like 70% higher than anywhere else in the country. I can't remember how much it is per megawatt hour, but it's insane. Like if you look it up, it's absolutely insane. It drives me crazy. Yeah, thanks for pointing that out, Ace. Thanks for blackmailing me, Ace. I needed to think about that right now because I owe PG&E money right now. So yeah, on that note, if you guys want to contribute to the show, again, if you're watching on X, there's a little tap icon up there. But I think that's all I got for tonight. RGS, speak freely, speak proudly, Godspeed, keep going no matter what. I will. Prairie Kid, power bills are insane in British Columbia. Oh, I believe it. Is that where you're at? Okay. All right. Well, Ace Caulfield, the Prairie Kid, RGS, Hallucinate. If I'm missing any of you guys, I apologize. Let's see who else we got. Wally World, Michael Letter. What about the Tates? I'll just yeah, they are trying to go after the Tates as well. And Tristan follows me. He followed me when I posted my it's funny. Some things go viral that I just never expect to go viral. I posted it was just a screenshot when my face was really fat. And it was actually a picture I took on accident. You know when you accidentally take a picture? I was looking at it was a horrible angle, but I got this huge double chin going on. It was when I was like 270 pounds. I'm 6'6", so I wasn't like super obese. I'm really tall. So, but it was a horrible picture. And I had that. And then I had a picture of me trail running. And it just said, all I did is I posted them side by side. And it said, I used to be fat and I chose not to be. And that went viral. That went like super mega viral. And Tristan Tate followed me from that one. And he called me a king. So I was really stoked on that one. I was very stoked. So Tristan Tate, you're the man. I appreciate it. And yeah. Ace, RGS, Hallucinate, all you guys. You guys are the best. All right, that is all I got for the evening, but you know how we do it. Before we get out of here, we got to tell a joke from the greatest book ever written, The Truth About Chuck Norris. Let's see what we got tonight. I hope it's a good one. Oh. Okay, all right. I think this one should be good. I didn't read the whole joke, but I have a feeling it's going to be a good one. So here we go. Chuck Norris joke of the evening. Thank you guys so much for joining. I will be back. You know what? I'll do a show tomorrow. I'll do another show tomorrow because there's still a bunch of other stuff I wanted to talk about that has nothing to do with this TikTok bill. Terry Wallace, I'm sorry. She wanted me to do a Haiti episode. I need to talk about Haiti and the Clintons. All right. Chuck Norris joke of the evening. Someone once tried to tell Chuck Norris that roundhouse kicks aren't the best way to kick someone. This has been recorded in historians as the worst mistake anyone has ever made. And on that note, stay CaliBased.